All right. I think we're live. We'll see. It should be live. I see audio levels. Let me know in live chat if I'm not actually live. But yeah, we have a little bit of a delay. I can see that I'm live on here, but I'm not even talking yet. But now I'm talking. So let's see. YouTube is popping up all kinds of things because it's the first time I've live streamed on this new computer and crazy. All right. So why is it so hard to buy a Raspberry Pi right now? That's the title of the video. You can't buy one right now. Technically speaking, if you have tons of money and you want to pay like 150 bucks for a Pi, you could buy a Pi. There's a few models that are really, really hard to get, like the unicorns, like an 8 gigabyte Raspberry Pi Compute Module 4. This is literally all, well, there's one over here that I'm working on. You can see if I go over to this view. There's one Pi over here that I'm doing some DVR testing on, NVR, DVR, whatever that is. And man, DVRs for any platform, not just Raspberry Pi, but x86 or anything, especially open source ones, they're a hot mess. A video on that will be coming up. But anyway, yeah, these are all the Pis I ever bought. I have not bought one of these since September 2021. So it's been over a year now since I have been able to find one of these. I actually bought most of them at Micro Center, I think. They were in stock. They had literally like 3 rows of CM4s at Micro Center when I was buying these things. But then component shortage and everything. But I wanted to give some clarity to why it is so hard to get them. What are some alternatives that you might consider? Why might you not want to consider an alternative for some people? And also, I'm going to be testing at the end of this video this focusing is not working very well today. Oh, there you go. This is from BigTreeTech, a CB1. And before, I actually tested a Rockchip RK3566 and a Pine 64 SO Quartz. These are CM4 compatible boards. The Rockchip, the Radza one, the CM3, this one actually has a few interesting new features above and beyond what the CM4 does. So it's interesting, you know, other manufacturers are using the same form factor with the same pinout and giving some more features, but there's some caveats. And if you go look at that video, I still have had some trouble with both of these boards, getting them to do all the things that I want them to do. So that's the topic for today's video. At the end of it, we'll try to get this guy going. We'll see if we can or not. We'll see if it's a good experience, but that's one of the things I want to talk about. Let's see. Video on chat. I'm live and live. Okay, well, looks like some people... My audio is too low. Hopefully that's not the case. It should be pretty good here. Let me... I'll preview it over in my other monitor. Sometimes it's different people's displays and things. Of course, I don't have speakers plugged into the computer that I'm previewing this on, so... yeah, turn it up. All right, so anyway, this is definitely live. I mean, I don't normally talk like this. I talk a lot faster when I'm live, and if you distract me enough, I might not actually get to the points I have in my little outline here. But anyway, the reason why I'm doing this is because, well, 2 things. One is I'm doing it live because I was going to work on a video for this week, but life happened. No colon's still rolling. I have my shirt on tonight. Life happened, and I've had a lot of issues with my health. Tonight, I'm operating probably at about 80%, and we just got back from our family vacation, which was iffy whether or not that could even happen. Luckily, it did. But anyway, life happened. I'm doing this live mostly because I wanted to do this as a big video, but big videos take, for a video like this, a lot longer to prepare. So doing it live lets me get through all the points more quickly and without as much upfront prep time. And I might make another video about this later once I get a few more boards in to compare and talk about, since this changes every few months, how these other boards will fare, because the communities around them, some of them pick up steam and get some things working, others don't. But every video that I post a Pi project, I get tons of comments about, well, it'd be great to do that if there were actually Raspberry Pis available, and I get it. You know, I do these projects mostly for the projects and the things that I want to do. I don't do them to promote Raspberry Pi. I've never been paid a dime by Raspberry Pi. I don't have any official tight relationship with Raspberry Pi. I do have a few contacts who I talk to about it, and I have gotten access to devices early in their alpha team for testing and things like that. So, you know, I'm not going to say that I don't have any official relationship with Raspberry Pi, but they don't pay me any money. I'm not in any special relationship, and I use a lot of other computers and a lot of other SBCs and a lot of other embedded devices. So, the reason I use Raspberry Pi a lot of times is because the community around it, the support for it, the ability to get things up and running quickly without having to do a lot of hard work and labor intense things like spending a week just trying to get one driver going or something like that, except for GPUs, of course. But the last official update on this was in April. And if I go over to my browser here, I don't have the chat up on this computer, so I can't paste it in the chat. But if somebody wants to paste the link in there, YouTube might kick you out because it thinks you're spamming. But the last update was in April, and Eben Upton said, it's hard to buy Raspberry Pis. Hard is an understatement. It's almost impossible to buy a Raspberry Pi at MSRP by itself from any vendor. And there's a lot of good reasons in here. But the bottom line was basically they were prioritizing their OEM customers. That's the manufacturers who partner with Raspberry Pi and have a special relationship. And like I did a video on NEC/Sharp of America. They make a display that can have a Raspberry Pi inside of it. So NEC is probably not the best example for it because they're a pretty big company. They have other options. They have alternative Intel modules you can slot in. So it's not going to kill them if they don't have a supply of Raspberry Pis. But there are some companies that make devices for industry, for commercial products and things that they formed a partnership with Raspberry Pi before the shortage. And they grew their whole business based on the fact that they could get these Raspberry Pis, and they contribute back patches to the kernel, they contribute back support. They have members who are makers in our maker communities, and not all of them are like that. There are some who are more like leeches that pull off things more than give back. But because of that, Raspberry Pi wants to make sure that they don't make businesses go out of business because they chose Raspberry Pi. And it's a business decision. And a lot of people are not going to like that. That's fine, and I'm not super happy about it, but it is what it is. And so I actually talked to Eben and a couple other people at Raspberry Pi and asked about this and said, it's been a long time. April was, I don't know, like 6 months ago or so. Are there any updates to this? Are things looking better right now? And he basically said everything in the blog post is still valid. Things are still supply constrained. They're having, they can't get the volumes of chips and other components in that they need to make these boards in higher volumes. And they're still prioritizing the OEM customers, but they are, he said, ring fencing. That's a business term. He's ring fencing some supply for customers. So if you go to a site like rpilocator.com, I haven't checked them in a little bit, so rpilocator.com. It has a listing of places that do have Pis in stock, and this is updated very frequently. And if you're interested in getting a Pi, go here and set up alerts for it, because every once in a while, one of these places does have like a few hundred boards, and they sell out within a few hours. So, that's probably the best way to get it right now, and they mentioned this in that blog post. But so when they ring fence a batch of these and send them to people, they do send out a few hundred at a time to different retailers, and the retailers send them. But that's why the retailers also are putting like estimated January, because they think it'll be January. It could be a little bit later. Maybe they'll get lucky and get them earlier. But it's better to give people a long estimate and then give them something sooner than give them something longer. And sometimes they don't know how long it'll be, so it ends up being months out, or even like 2023, mid 2023, something like that. But they also even wanted to make it clear that if you are an OEM, or even if you are somebody in the community who has to get a Raspberry Pi for some reason and really needs to get them at MSRP or get them quickly or something like that, please email their email address. It's business@raspberrypi.com. You probably, I don't think everybody, like if I just emailed them, I don't think I would just jump up in line because I wanted an extra one. I have enough for my needs here. I use these for testing clusters. I use these for testing like my NVR systems that I'm testing right now. So I do need like 5 or 6, maybe I have 10 right now. So I need 5 or 6, and having a few extra is nice for me. But I don't need more, so I haven't bought any more. But if you are constrained, if you're having trouble, if you're working on this project for your senior thesis or something, go ahead and email that address. That might get you to get one. But anyway, as I said earlier, he said the main goal is to not let the companies that rely on Raspberry Pis to kind of wither and die, because they have this relationship, and they want to help each other and support each other, and hopefully once this thing is over, it won't be a big issue anymore. And he said that they're currently producing still 400,000 Raspberry Pis per month. I believe that's Raspberry Pis, not Picos in addition. I think the Picos are in addition to the Raspberry Pis in that number, but it was, the quote was 400,000 Raspberry Pis. So I don't know if that includes or not. We could get clarification maybe on Twitter. But the final thing that they said after I told them, like, I'm going to make this video, I'm going to talk about this stuff. Can I say these things? And they said yes. And they're not going to do any more official blog posts until they have something new to say. Hopefully that new thing will be like maybe in a few months, supply is not an issue anymore. But they do want to mention that the big things for them is the software support, maintenance, quality control, things like that. That is why Raspberry Pis are hard to find. And, you know, when you buy a Raspberry Pi, you can be sure that it's a Raspberry Pi, it's going to work, it has support. Even 10-year-old Raspberry Pis, like I have at the bottom of the stack, I have like an A+ over here, and I have my original Raspberry Pi. All of these are still supported and run. That's even more than they originally promised, and that's pretty cool. And it means that, you know, even if you have an old stock of Raspberry Pis, if you have certain projects, you can run on them. So, I mean, that's all that I have from him directly. And I want to give a little bit of my opinion too, because it does pain me to see when people are like, this project looks so cool, but lucky you already bought those in 2021. I actually ordered most of them in 2020. It took 6 or 7 months to come in. But I feel that pain, and I would like Raspberry Pi to start prioritizing hobbyists and makers again. It seems like that was the original intention: education, hobbyists, makers, and you know, a lot of the Raspberry Pi community is in the maker space, and it's hard to see those people having to choose alternatives, which is fine. Finding alternatives is good, and knowing the whole ecosystem is nice too, because ARM is not just Raspberry Pi for sure, and RISC-V can also be you know, an interesting alternative in the future. I'm exploring that as well. But they do seem to be able to prioritize Pico and Pico W, probably because the little, I don't have one on hand right here, it's in a box somewhere. But you know, the SoC on the Raspberry Pi is, you know, I don't know, 40 millimeters or something, 20 millimeters. I don't know how big that is, but the little custom silicone on the Pico is teeny tiny, so they can fit a ton more on a single wafer, so they can produce tons of those, even in a shorter run. So they haven't had a problem with that. And also, you know, a lot of people, whenever I mention this stuff on Twitter or something, someone's like, oh, it's probably because they're focusing on the Pi 5 or whatever's next. And I can tell you for sure that's not the case. They've been continually saying the problem is capacity. And it's not just Raspberry Pi. It's car makers and it's other people that are making silicone, any kind of chips, are having the same issue. So that's the big problem here. You know, me just guessing, just postulating based on what I see elsewhere in the industry, is that it probably won't change this year for the better. It'll probably be another at least 3 to 6 months before we start seeing a change. And, you know, the global economy, how things are doing between different countries and things also has effects on that. You know, TSMC and other chip manufacturers around the world have gone through some interesting changes the past few years. I put in a note here. Overall, my opinion on this is I am les sad. Yes, that is, I think I typed this at night a couple nights ago, so I am les sad. But another thing that a lot of people have been asking me a lot is to do more videos on other SBCs, so not just the Raspberry Pi. And you can see on my desk here, I have my Raspberry Pi collection. I have all the models of Raspberry Pi. I have the A+ and 3A+. I have my Pi Tray Mini here for testing the CM4 and my CM4 I/O board. But I have a few other boards in my organization over there. Sometimes what I've done is I would buy a board and I would start testing it, and I would be like, you know, I can't get this going to the point where I can do a good video on it and recommend it. I usually don't do a video on something that I wouldn't recommend other people doing, because A, it seems like a waste of time to spend enough time to make a full video on it, and B, I don't want to show you something and be like, do this, and then you do it, and you're like, man, Jeff is an idiot. I don't know why he did that. I mean, you can think I'm an idiot anyway. But someone says, please design your own SBC. I'm not going to do that. Oh, and $1,000 raised. So that's a good transition here. So that's why it's hard to get a Raspberry Pi right now. The chat has some good opinions in there too. And, you know, at this point, I think I've seen every argument from every side, and I don't think it's going to change for a few months at least. I'm still holding out hope. Every time I go to Micro Center, I look and they're always out of stock. But last time I went, they had a giant bag of Picos. So if you want to do any microcontroller projects, do that. But thank you so much to everybody who's donated. I'm supposed to have like a little alert thing on here, but it definitely is not working. I don't know if Streamlabs has to be open for that to work. But let's see, viewer activity. Yeah, thank you so much. And apparently YouTube doesn't show me all the donations in a list, so I can't even thank people by name, but you know, glance in the live chat. You'll see that stuff. But the reason I'm doing the stream tonight also, and a second reason for it besides I'm lazy and I didn't want to make a full video that takes a lot longer and I was on vacation, is today is International Ostomy Awareness Day. And for people who haven't seen my video about me being sick, I've had quite a summer. And today I'm wearing my no colon still rolling because I am an ostomate. That means I have an ostomy. I had a major surgery called a proctocolectomy, total proctocolectomy. That's like, you know, total recall instead of just recall. And that was in 2018. And that's a pretty life-altering surgery. And some people don't have the choice. Some people have it happen when they're knocked unconscious and have a wound in their stomach or they have colon cancer or something. I actually chose to do it after a few years of having trouble with Crohn's disease. But the UOAA, who is the organization that I'm raising funds for in this live stream, is an organization that helps with people like me who have ostomies. So they've been super helpful. They have local chapters. And so, you know, I wanted to pay it back some way. And so I might make this an annual thing on Ostomy Awareness Day. But anyway, that's what this fundraiser is for. I know a few people had asked about this. How has my health been lately? Good, not great. I'd say like right now I'm kind of 80%, 85% health. Earlier in the summer, I was like 50 to 60% health. I was having some issues with infections and things. But you know, with Crohn's disease, it's a chronic illness that needs a lot of management. So anyway, and I thank everybody. There are a ton of people who are supporting me on Patreon and GitHub, and now I even added, I think, YouTube memberships, which I don't think are plugging into the stream either. They were supposed to show up a notification or something, but whatever. I'll have to figure that out for the next live stream. At least I was not muted at the beginning. Every live stream for the past 2 years, I've been muted at the beginning accidentally. But yeah, anyway, that's what the fundraiser's for. Let's get back to it. I have a note here to try to thank the people that donated, but there's a couple that are showing up since I mentioned that, but I think YouTube like kicks them out. I can't scroll up. So thank you to Justin, Crazy Cho 751, Alex Cash, Anonymous. There were even a few people that donated before the stream began. So thank you so much. Other people, like I have a very positive outlook on life, and I do this work as much as I can around my illness. And I'm so thankful to have a job where I can do that. I can work around it. There are a lot of people that don't have those privileges that I have and that don't have the ability to work from home and things. Those people, it's even more important for an organization like UOAA to help them to figure out ways to live with their illness and manage it. So anyway, thank you for that. Let's get to the next step in this. Before I get into talking about the CB1, which is in here. Oh, look at that. They have a little duck. That's cute. I don't know why they gave me a duck. It's from BigTreeTech. I've done a few things with BigTreeTech before. I've bought a few products from them, and they seem to be mostly for 3D printing type things. I don't know why they gave me a duck. If anybody in the chat knows why they sent me a duck, that would be nice. I mean, it's cool. Maybe does it squeak? No? There's a little valve on the bottom. I don't know what that does. Looks like it includes an antenna and the actual CB1, which is the same form factor as a Raspberry Pi Compute Module 4, which I'll pop out of here. And my 3D printer's not perfectly calibrated, so this little, don't want to break those. But those little cases actually came from Miracle or Ivan from Uptime Lab. He has those on his GitHub to hold these things. If you're like me and you have more than one Raspberry Pi Compute Module 4, but this is the same form factor, and we'll get to this in a couple minutes. But there's other alternatives too, not just for Compute Module 4s. And like I said, I have a video on the Radsa CM3. I don't know how to get this to focus. There we go. Radsa CM3 here, and the Pine 64 SO quartz. Both of these use the RK3566 chip. I haven't seen anything with a 3588, I think it is, the newer chip that's a little faster and has more PCIe. But the cool thing about the CM3 is it has a third connector along the top. And it's funny, the manufacturer of these connectors, the Hyros connectors they're called, each of these is 100 pins. They say specifically, like, these are not meant to be used with more than one connector per board. And, you know, we're adding more and more, and maybe someone will add one down here and we'll have 400 pins coming out of these things. But it uses that extra one to expose, I think, USB 3, SATA, native, and something else, maybe more GPIO or something, which is cool because you can use this form factor, which is tiny, and put more interesting things on it. On the flip side, so this one is a 3566. It's a competent little SoC, but I was having trouble getting an OS to run on it because it had the SPI flash had an issue. This might be an earlier board too, so I might need to just buy a new one and see if I can get that one working. But there's little issues like that. You can watch my video about it to see. But the CB1, this one from BigTreeTech, it has, if I can get it out, no static protection at all. So I've never had any of these break because of that. This one has an Allwinner H616, which is a little bit lower end. I think it's an A53. I have the specs on here somewhere. Yeah, it's an A53 quad-core 1.5 gigahertz CPU, which is, it's fast-ish, but it's not as fast as the Pi's A72 cores. It has 1 gig of LPDDR3 RAM, so that's slower than the Pi's RAM and slower than the RAM on those other boards. And it only has a 1000 megabit Ethernet. I don't even know. I guess that might be built into the chip. I don't know if there's a Ethernet NIC chip on here. And then it also has built-in Wi-Fi and I believe Bluetooth. It might just have Wi-Fi, I don't know, but it includes this little antenna for it too. But it's interesting to note that this board, which is not focusing, there we go. This board, like many other boards that are alternatives for the Pi, and many other boards that are built for like embedded devices, it's built for a purpose, and this purpose is basically for 3D printing. So the problem that BigTreeTech saw was we have these people building these platforms using the Compute Module 4, which are awesome for 3D printer control, but they aren't able to get Compute Module 4. So how are we going to solve that? So they made this, which is a lowish cost alternative to the Compute Module 4 that will let people run the software that they need. You know, I believe you can run Octoprint on here. It can run the board that they make for this, the Manta Ray or something. I don't know what it is. Yeah, the Manta M4P control board can run Clipper alongside this and control your 3D printer so that you can build a 3D printer around their solutions, which is cool. But this is not necessarily going to replace a CM4 in all functionality, and I don't believe that they are going to spend the same amount of time making it a general purpose computer built for all kinds of applications like industry and you know, video software and robotics and things like that. It can probably do a lot of those things, but they're not going to support that as an organization to the same level that Raspberry Pi can. And that's the case with all these. Like the SO quartz from Pine 64 is built by Pine 64, which is a lot different in the way that it works as an organization than a lot of the other manufacturers. A lot of the manufacturers work with set-top boxes or work with, you know, BigTreeTech does 3D printing mainly. Pine 64 is kind of like, there's cool hardware in the world. Let's throw it on a board and then throw it at the wall and see what sticks and then see what the community cares about, and then whatever they care about is supported. So for the Compute Module 4, there's these two. I think there's another board. I don't remember if anybody in chat knows what it is. Yeah, someone will be 45 by the time the Pi market is stabilized. And someone's mentioning that BigTreeTech's customer support is non-existent. So, you know, these are the things. Like, each of these organizations is built around a specific use case, whereas Raspberry Pi is a lot more generic. And, you know, you could be a maker using Raspberry Pis. You could be industry using Raspberry Pis. You could be control systems. You could be commercial. You could be... I know people that are using them for voicemail systems, for audio control, for video switching, all these crazy things that you wouldn't think a little Pi would do. And they're doing it because this thing uses like 3 to 6 watts, and a PC would use at least 10 to 20 watts, even for a tiny one. But so these are alternatives for the Compute Module 4. And some of them work, some of them work better than others. None of them are as easy out of the box as the Raspberry Pi. At the end of this stream, we're going to try to get this thing working and see how that experience is. And I'll compare it to the first time trying to get the Radsa CM3 and the Pine 64 SO Quartz running. But also for the Raspberry Pi 4 Model B, this guy, there's actually a lot more alternatives from, what do we got? We have, like, Radsa makes a couple versions that are similar to this, or some are a little bit bigger, some are a little bit smaller. Banana Pi, Orange Pi, Odroid, Asus, I think, don't they make the Tinkerboard still? I don't know if they still make it or not. But anyway, there's a lot of alternatives for these too. Some of them are supported by a system called Armbian, even if the manufacturer stops supporting it. Armbian is something to check out if you're using one of these alternates. Armbian maintains community support with a Debian-like distro for a lot of boards that manufacturers are like, here's Ubuntu 16, and then they never update it, and it's like years later and Ubuntu 16 is not supported, and the only way that you can get the board running with anything modern is using Armbian. So cool, kudos to that community, but that's another thing that you'll get with some of these alternatives is the lack of support, you know, or you're running Linux kernel 5.6 or 5.10 in perpetuity because the manufacturer doesn't support device trees for anything later. They have their own fork of the kernel that they are like, well, we have this new device, so why would we maintain that old one? Whereas Raspberry Pi has their fork of Raspberry Pi Linux that is well maintained and works with all their boards, and they still do updates to fix things, bugs on the older boards very frequently. So yeah, so let me check. 1.4 thousand. Thank you so much. My informal goal, I didn't put this anywhere. My informal goal is to get $1,000 raised, and I would be very happy about that. So that's awesome. Thank you so much. It's going to help so many people who are in a situation like mine, but many people are, like I said, if you're surprised, like if you come out of a surgery after an accident or something, and you all of a sudden have an ostomy, that is a huge, huge life difference. For me, I had time to think about it. I had time to talk to people who had ostomies. That was huge for me. And it made me more comfortable. It's still not something that is like, oh, this is the best thing ever. Everybody should have an ostomy. But I think if I ever go up into space, it might be easier for me than some other people. But anyway, we don't need to talk about that right now. I'm going to try to get this CB1 working. Let me also show you a little bit more about it. So this is the board. I bought it direct from BigTreeTech. I think you can buy it on Amazon, and I should have put a link to it in the description. I didn't. So again, if someone wants to paste that in the chat, that'd be great. And someone says 461 likes. Let's get a few more likes on this live stream. If everyone wants to click that like button, that'd be awesome. But anyway, so this is the BigTreeTech PI4B adapter. And so what I did was I bought this kit. And let me get out the adapter too. They didn't include a rubber duck in the adapter box. I'll show you that. So sadly, there's no rubber duck in here. But again, I don't know why they included it, but it was nice of them to have a little rubber duck. But they make this adapter, which does not have a thing for me to tear, so I'll grab my scissors. They make this adapter that's supposed to work with any CM4 style board. So basically, your compute module 4 goes here, like so. And this puts it into a form factor that's identical. It should be identical. Let's double check their specifications. Well, obviously a couple ports are missing, but close to identical to the Raspberry Pi 4 Model B. However, there are a couple notable differences. One is they have USB 2.0 4 ports. They mark that there. And this says 1 gigabits LAN. Now, an interesting thing about that is if you plug in a compute module 4, and I cannot see, I hope you're seeing any of this. Let's see. It's probably all blurry. Okay, there we go. So if you plug in a CM4, the built-in NIC, the network interface adapter on it, is a gigabit, and you can get that out through here. But if you plug in their board, this is the CB1, which I'll pop in like this, because we're going to try to get it working. If I plug this guy in, I wonder if that's a NIC there. I don't know. Oh yeah, it is. It says LAN, I think. Can you see on the stream? You might be able to see better than I can because my eyesight is not perfect at that close of a distance. But anyway, that might be the LAN chip. Otherwise, it's built into the SoC. but it has two 512 meg chips for LPDDR3 RAM, but the NIC on it is only 1000 megabits. Now, for a 3D printer, you're not going to need a gigabit. I can't think of a reason why I have ever needed more than 100 megabits for my 3D printer with Octopi, and I'll do a video on that someday. That'll be fun, because 3D printing is quite an experience. But anyway, this board is supposed to basically turn a CM4 into a PI4 Model B, which is a little bit closer, I think. So there's a few other boards like this. Like this is the one that I've been using. There's a little dust on it because it's been up here for months now. And I use it quite frequently to flash eMMC on Compute Module 4s, which it's the PyTray Mini from SourceKit. The reason I like it is it has a eMMC boot switch here, and you just switch it on to boot and off to flash, which is super fancy and nice. There's a run button. I don't know what that does. I think it reboots it or something. But it's nice because it just gives me full-size HDMI since my monitor is that way. One USB port, which I don't ever need to use because I'm just flashing through here, and a USB port to flash the thing. So this is helpful, and it's supposed to be somewhat like the Pi4 form factor, but it's not quite. It's not perfect. It's the same size, but you can see the port layout is different. The ports on the side are different. So this is cool for that reason. You can get a CM4 or one of these guys and put it into a Pi case, and not everything is perfect. Like it doesn't have PoE support. It doesn't have a few of the other features. It doesn't have the analog audio output or anything like that. But it does have the camera and DSI-1, so they're two different types of connectors, which is a little annoying, but you know, you can build adapters. But it has everything else in the same place. So let's try, that's the browser. Here, I'll just let you see. They have different packages available too. There's like, you can just get the board by itself without the CB1. I keep saying CM1. And you can get some other options too for different things. Like the Octopus is an, I think, 8-channel stepper motor controller for 3D printing. There's a bunch of different options for this. Like I said, this is built for 3D printing. It's not built to be a general purpose computer the same way as a Raspberry Pi, but it might be able to do that. But they have a video on it and all that, so you can go there and check it out. So let me try. I'm going to take memory card. I believe that they have an image I can download, so let's try that in the browser. BigTreeTech, do they have a link? So this is one of the quickest things. When I go to raspberrypi.com, I say, you know what, I just bought a Raspberry Pi. I want to figure out how to do something, like how to get it working. So to my mind, I'm like, oh, software, I can download an image for it or something. Or you can go to documentation, and their documentation should have like getting started. Okay, that's great. Very helpful. You know, how do I, you know, I got a Raspberry Pi. What do I do to get it running? So it takes you through all that. So let's see, you know, this I think is more the experience that you get with a lot of other things where it's more focused on hardware and not the community to support things like that. And thank you so much to Jim and to King of the Pod and Ezekiel and everyone else who's donated. Swanee, Original Radman, Jason, Jeffrey, The Hookup, Red Frobro, Megahertz UHF, probably somebody who likes radio. John Williams, probably not the composer, but it would be cool if the composer, John Williams, too, was watching this. Alex, Justin, everybody who's donated, thank you so much. But back to my point on this is, like, I bought one of these. Now I want to come and figure out how to get it working. So this is the order page. Let me go to their homepage. So, you know, there's a lot of stuff about the hardware they have. Raspberry Pi 5, I did a video on that, the Raspberry Pi 5. You should check that out if you're interested. It's a really cool controller, built for 3D printing, but it can be used for a lot of different things, and I'm going to be using it for something different. Video to come someday on that. But I don't see anything about like how to get set up, so let's try BigTreeTech driver board. There's nothing on here like getting started or anything like that. This is basically their main website. Maybe there's BigTreeTech CB1. Let's just do that. Okay, so Google helps me here. I can find immediately that there's this thing, but it doesn't seem like there's an easy way from their website to that. That's what I found a lot of times. Or, you know, another thing is sometimes you'll buy one of these things like an orange Pi or banana Pi or something. Maybe it's an older model. And you find that on their website, they have an old image, and you're like, well, what? I need to get a new image. Where do I find those? And you have to Google around to find, oh, there's an Armbian image, or oh, there's this other place where you can go in a forum to get a better image or something like that. Someone says it's on the CB1 product page. Let's see if I can find it quick. Let's go back to CB1. The other funny thing is, like, it's the PI4B adapter. Like the way that they list this on the website also makes it hard to find just the CB1. I don't know if you can just buy the CB1. Someone says there's a link to it. Oh, so there's an instruction for use. I hate videos though. Like when I buy something and want to start doing something, I don't want to sit there and watch a video, take notes, or copy out instructions and do it. So let's see if something down here has it. Specs. Oh, what is this? Oh, I thought these were links, but they're not. Let's keep going. Just a lot of slides, basically. I'm guessing this is like the video, but in slideshow mode. We're still going. Okay. Okay, reviews. I don't see a link yet. That's not, here, technical support. That's not, I don't think that's going to give it, I don't see anything yet. Yeah, so I have not seen anything. Here's Support Center. Maybe Support Center has a link to it. How can we help? Guide videos, I don't, that's another fun thing that you'll find with a lot of these. And, you know, I don't put blame on them. A lot of the people that run these companies and are part of this, and the web developers or things, are not native English speakers. So I don't, you know, if I tell them, hey, you know, this is misspelled, I expect them to update that at some point. But you'll find a lot of misspellings here because a lot of people that run these other manufacturers are not native English speaking. The company is, you know, centered in Taiwan or in China or in, you know, other countries that are not England and the US, basically. So, but let's see. Maybe under downloads, it might be linked. B1, BX, no. Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, oh, CB1, look at this. CB1, core board, download. I don't know what I'm downloading. I have no clue what this is, but I will take a risk and download it. README. I don't want the file name. I don't know. Oh, this is Google Drive. Okay. I don't know what that did. Always download things live on streams and just click open for any zip file. That's always a good idea. Oh, it's a step file. So it's literally the schematics. So that's not too helpful. I can't run anything off that. Yeah, so anyway, like I said, I went to Google and this is my page on it. So let me go back to BigTreeTech CB1 OS image. Yeah, so we'll just go to their GitHub. I couldn't find it. Oh, there was a mention of it. Let's see. Supported. What does this say? OS image. Oh, okay, never mind. So a comment has more information than the page did. Someone said there was a link to this on the page. I don't see that. I'm not seeing where you're seeing that link. Oh, here they are. These don't look like links at all, and one of them has a purple underline under it. That's a user manual, though. Those are not links to anything. So yeah, there's no way to get to this. That's the experience that I've had with all these alternative boards. You just have to kind of take your brain into a different space. It's not like Raspberry Pi. It's not like Apple. It's not like Dell, where you're like, I have this model number and I want to get the software for it. I go to the website and I get the software. That's not going to be how it works. So somehow I found this through Google, through the luck that I had with my search. And this doesn't, oh, so the OS image is not in here. It looks like 2 days ago there was a release, and they must build the image somewhere. So they have the source code. That's good to know that they have like a fork of Linux, I guess. They compile it through this repository. Linux 4.9, hopefully that's not the kernel version they're on. That would be interesting, but you know, not necessarily unexpected, but let's see. I'll go to the releases, and it says kernel 5.16, Debian 11, so that's good. Shell script for setting Wi-Fi. I don't need Clipper or anything, I don't think. So I think I'll do this, maybe the minimal version? No, I don't want to do that because all of a sudden it's giving me a lot of weird stuff. And here's another thing that happens a lot. Like, I don't know, a lot of times the people that complain about these things, like, oh, you shouldn't use Raspberry Pi all the time, use all these other things. Like, it's easy to get this working. Easy is an interesting word when you're talking about, I've already jumped away from their website to Google to try to find a way to run something on the board. And at this point, I'm on Google and I'm reading about things like, if you use this version of the image, and it doesn't give a recommended version at all yet. As far as I can tell, there's two images. There's one that's Clipper, one that's minimal. There's nothing like Maximal, so there's no like PiOS with a GUI. I mean, maybe Minimal has a GUI. I have no idea. It's for only 430 megabytes, so I'm not sure about that. I'm pointing at my screen and you're not seeing it, but there it is. So I don't think this has a GUI. I don't know if this one does either. But already it's saying like, add these things to xwrapper.config. Like, unless you're a developer or somebody who already knows tons about Linux, these things are like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to do that. And that's the problem. Like, I can't go up to somebody who I meet at an event and say, oh, I do all these Raspberry Pi things. Yeah, I have a guide here and it's like 3 or 4 steps and you just download the image from their website and follow the instructions on their documentation. It's no, don't go to their website, go to GitHub, download this release that hopefully is official. Like I didn't even check, is BigTreeTech actually officially BigTreeTech? It looks like it is. Can't be 100% sure. And this is not to ding on BigTreeTech. This is how most of the organizations are in the embedded device world. This is how it is. Raspberry Pi is the outlier, and that is why it is so hard to find Raspberry Pis, because it's hard to find the support and community and resources that you get with Raspberry Pi on these other devices. But anyway, that's all besides the point at this point. Just pointing out that this is the experience that you get. It's not quick and easy. It's a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to download this, and I'm going to put this in the computer. And let me switch. Oh, you know what? I don't have a screen capture thing set up, so I'm going to set the side camera, and I'll just move this camera a little bit so that you can see what I'm seeing. Get a sneak peek of my office too. Maybe I should do a tour sometime. That's not great, but that's what you get. Sorry. Maybe I'll turn up the brightness a little bit here for you. Okay. All right, so, oh goodness. So I downloaded this image. It's over in here. I'm going to open up Etcher. With Raspberry Pi, one of the cool things, and you could use Raspberry Pi Imager for this probably, but I'm not 100% sure. But Etcher is what I use for any other board and even for some Raspberry Pi images. But this is expanding the image. Hi, I can be on the camera still. I didn't set up before that. Like I said, I haven't streamed in like 6 months, so this is all a bit different. And while it's doing this, I'll also take the opportunity to say, please, thank you first of all to everybody who's donated. Please consider donating to the UOAA. Today is United Ostomy, the Ostomy Awareness Day, October 1st. So, and it's the day before my anniversary too. I kind of forgot about that. I hope that that's not a problem. Anyway, let's see. So we have the image here, right here, and it's 2.4 gigs. So maybe it has a GUI. I don't know. And I'm going to flash from file, choose this, got that, target, the SD card. I put in a 64 gig card. I actually have this little, I want to make a tray. I should have modified the design, and you can't see anything that I'm showing you, I don't think. Can you? Oh, yeah, you can. I'm looking at the wrong stream. This is a little micro SD and SD card holder. So I have my little SD cards, and sometimes I have them all flashed with something, other times I don't, but I just grab whatever's in here. Right now there's 128. I mostly use these SanDisk Extremes for testing because they are super fast write speeds. You can't see that because it's too bright now because I turned it up for the screen, but SanDisk Extreme Plus. They're the best for the write speeds when I'm flashing a ton of images. Yeah, I used to use the command line to flash my images, but Etcher is just a little nicer. And I wasn't even flashing it, so let's do that now. Oh, let's see, you can't see my keyboard good. Sridhar, well, it's your lucky day. Let's see. Yeah, no, the anniversary, so this is an interesting year for the anniversary. We both decided that we're not doing any gifts or anything, but because of the way that our vacation lined up and my health issues and things, we decided that we're going to kind of celebrate in a different way, probably later the year or something. So it's not the worst thing in the world, but I still like to, you know, figure out something fun to do. And my wife might be watching this live stream upstairs, so I don't want to say anything too much there. Validating. Let's live dangerously. Skip that. Okay. That's probably a bad idea, but whatever. No, I hate Google Drive. I can't get this to turn off. Every single card that you plug in, it does this the first time. That's so dumb. Oh, Google. I should just get rid of Google Drive on here. I use it to sync some things that are big, but anyway, why am I in OBS right now? We need to get this card out. So let me switch back here. I don't think you need to see that right now, but you do need to see the hardware when I plug it in. So get that back up. And it's really bright now. Sorry about that. Let me turn that back down. Is that better? Yeah, that's better. Okay. So I got the micro SD card here, and I'm going to stick it in. And it's just like the Pi4 Model B. Same location for it, and it's not a push-push type. It's just you push it in and you pull it out. So I like that they kept all that. That is nice about this board. So even if you don't want their module, this is a nice board. It's the exact same form factor. If you're like me and sometimes you swap your Pis out for testing, that's nice. Let me get some water here. What am I by trade? Well, that's an interesting question nowadays, but I used to be a programmer. I started out in web design and went into programming, then systems programming and back-end infrastructure. And at this point, I am doing YouTube and infrastructure development. I'll be at Ansible Fest in a couple weeks. So anybody in Chicago, fun time for automation. But anyway, so we got the card in. Let's see. I always have my... Oh, right. I just realized, right, so right now I have this other CM4. Let me zoom in over there. Can't really see it that well, but that CM4 over there is running, I think I have Shinobi on it right now. I've been testing different DVR solutions that run on the Pi, and I'm trying to get some setups that are easy to replicate, easy to test, and run well on the Pi, and Shinobi is doing okay, but not amazing yet. But anyway, I'm using my normal setup for that right now. So I'm going to switch to my other power cable. Actually, I need to go grab this power cable and does 2.4 amps. Let me grab an official Raspberry Pi power adapter. This is a big thing for people that don't know. These power adapters put out 3 amps, 5.1 volts. A lot of power adapters for USB-C only put out 2.4 amps, or sometimes they say 3 amps, but it's not a full 3 amps. So that's why you have power issues with the Pi, or flakiness and things. So always use an official power adapter if you can, because you're going to have weird issues with it if you don't. Now this board probably doesn't need a full 3 amps. I think that this chip requires a little less power. But I'm going to take my, let's see, my monitor plug here. It's stuck in there. There we go. And I forgot that it's full-size HDMI, so let me grab the adapter for that. I'm using that adapter for my camera, so where's my other one? I have another one somewhere. HDMI. Hold on a second. Ow. Okay. Well, I just knocked something metal on my leg. All right, so I have too many of these adapters flying around. You have micro HDMI to full-size HDMI. Micro HDMI was one of the worst things that ever happened to plugging in displays to anything. I hate these things, but that's what we have. And the funny thing is, the other end of this, I'll just have to plug it into my computer down here. Hold on. And I'm probably going to knock that off the desk. Okay. Where'd Jeff go? There he is. All right, we got HDMI. Let me grab network, which I'm using the network for that DVR again, so let me grab another network cable. Right. Network cable. Yes, hundreds of adapters, never the one you need. Oh my gosh. Oh, Flipper Zero. Yes, I actually do have one of those on the way. I don't have it yet, but I am going to have a lot of fun with that, I hope, if it's working well. We'll see. I'll let you know if it doesn't work well. All right, so we have network, we have HDMI, micro SD card is in. I should probably grab a keyboard and mouse, although I don't need one to set it up. I can just find it on the network. Hopefully they have SSH. They might not by default, though. And then I'll plug in power and let it boot. Let me grab that. Let me open up OBS on my PC. OBS. So this is, whoa, holy cow. Remind me later. No signal, okay. So let's plug this in and see if we get a signal. I see a green light on LED 2. Don't know what that means. Don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing. Oh, there's something. So something is happening. Let me grab my keyboard and mouse. All right. And there's a tree. I'm guessing that's for BigTreeTech. Let's get this going. I don't know if you can see that at all, so let me switch over here. Yeah, you can see something on here. It's here. This is the monitor that's plugged in through OBS on the PC. Someday I'll have a better streaming setup, but I am not a streamer, so this is as good as it gets for now. It's, maybe I should not have, okay. I plugged in USB and then it flashed on and off. I don't know if that was because I plugged in USB or for some other reason, but we'll see. But I was going to mention I don't have OBS on this computer connected through to the Mac Studio, which I'm using for the actual stream, and I was going to stream it all through the PC, but I didn't have all the right input adapters for the PC, so right now it's kind of a mishmash. At some point I'll have the PC all set up for that. And I can't see chat right now, so I can't see what people are saying. Let me make OBS a little bit smaller. No signal, uh-oh, come back. Let me move this over, because I don't need to see my hands waving around. What else are we seeing here? Thank you again for all your donations. This tree keeps popping up. I hope it's like, you know, the first time you put together a new board, like I hear with the 7000 series from AMD, it could take a few minutes to do the first boot. I hope it's something like that and not an actual problem. Oh, there is a blinking LED on the board. I don't know if you can see that. See the little green LED? Oh, and there's something on the screen here, which is teeny tiny. I think it's outputting in 4K. Oh boy, let's see. Someone mentions the Pi 3 was my favorite for things because you didn't need active cooling, and that is true. The Pi 3B Plus was the first one that was really like, you need a fan or at least a heatsink. So this is teeny tiny. Oh, great. I might need to plug straight into the monitor for this because I cannot read that at all. Let's see. So it is doing something. Let's see. Oh, login. I have no idea what that would be. Is there a thing on the website for it? Let's check. Browser. They'll maintain 5.6 in the future and not release 4.9. I would rather they not release 4.9 because that's ancient. Ethernet is okay now. I mean, is it connected? Let's see. So it does. Well, I get activity. I don't have a link light. Let's see. Is there? It's saying 100 megabits on the switch. So there is Ethernet. Let's see if I can find it in my network scanner, which I'm not going to show you because it shows everything on my network, and I don't want you to see all that. Sorry. And we'll see what it identifies itself as. It's asking for a login with a password. So let's try root. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. So apparently root is the way to log into this thing. Let me switch back to my other camera so you can see what I'm seeing. So I logged in as root, and now the resolution is really tiny. Oh man, I can't see that. I think it's 134 or something like that. Let's see if I can ping it. 134 maybe? No. Is there any way to make the console? Is there a quick way to, because the problem is I have this plugged into a 4K device. Is there a quick way to make the console text bigger or switch the resolution with just a quick command that should work universally in Linux? A lot of times it's like, oh, it works in this window manager or something. But while I'm doing that, I'm going to pop back open the network scanner and try to find this thing. It looks like it says, well, one something. Let me scroll down and see if I see it. Here's my DVR. 203, no. Oh, here, no, that's the camera. Okay, that's not it. And I have chat on like slow mode or something, so it's, this is tough. Yeah, I'm not going to show you my social security number, hopefully. Make it bigger. Oh yeah, I can actually do that in OBS. I don't know what I'm thinking. In OBS, I can make this bigger. It's not wonderful, but I can just make this bigger and bigger. And except for this is apparently not a 4K source. Let me see if I can change that. 4K. Like I said, I'm not a streamer. OBS is not my native language. Okay, so here we go. Root. IP address is 136. So let me see if I can SSH into this thing. SSH root at 10.0.100.136. Yeah, root. And there I am. I'm in. Okay, so I can't show you that on this screen, but I can SSH into it, which is nice. Let's see. uname-a. Let's see if it is. Yeah, it's Linux 5.6.17. Let me actually make this visible for you. 720p terminal. Make the text bigger. And then let me add it as a source in OBS so I can show it to you. If I go back to browser mode. Nope, browser mode, there we go. And then I'm going to add a window capture. Window capture, where is it? There it is. Terminal, I'll call it. And choose terminal. And I don't know why it's not going to show full screen, but it's showing up somehow. Okay. And I think that's showing up for you now. Should be. And I don't know why it's not the right size, but whatever. This is weird. Why is this is not the right thing? I think I'm in the wrong thing. Oops. Sorry about that. Terminal. Nope. Okay. I don't know what exactly you're seeing. Let me switch back on here. You're seeing something, so that's good. But it's not quite right. I think that it's just showing too big right now. Let's see. Yeah, I made this one too small. And this one is too big. So let me make that smaller. Sorry about this. Like I said, I am not a streamer. This is all lack of OBS prep time. Let me put that under there. Okay, now you can see things. All right, so let's explore this a little bit. So it looks like it has Bullseye 5.16.17, and I ran uname-a to confirm that, Arch64. What else do I want to check? LSPCI to see what's on there. So there is no PCI bus on this chip. It's the, what is it, the H616 LS-USB. So there are some devices, USB 2.0 only it looks like, IPA. So there's Ethernet. It does have a link. Let's do a quick apt update. Looks like it's going through, whoops, it's going through the China mirrors. So that's interesting. tuna.tsinghua.edu.cn. That's another thing that I noticed with a lot of these boards is, there's a lot of Chinese companies and Taiwanese companies and things that make them, and they use all their defaults. With Raspberry Pi, a lot of times they'll set up something where you can choose your regional preferences right away for NTP or for update servers and things like that. But with these boards, it's often like they get it working, and that's the image that they ship. They don't spend the extra time to make things run around the world localized necessarily, unless you know what you're doing with Linux. So at some point I would switch the mirrors to use something closer to me. I don't know why this is taking so long. Let me feel the chip. Oh wow, it's kind of hot. This chip is kind of hot. Apparently YouTube is like, insert ads right here. No, that's not the point, YouTube. I don't want to just throw ads at people. But if you want to make it easy for me not to ever do that, you can become a channel member. But right now the main goal is to get people to donate to the UOAA. That's what the thing on the side of the screen up here, I hope that I'm pointing in the right spot, is for. Let's see. Okay. Talk about why we can't buy pies. I mentioned that in the beginning of the stream. This is going to be a VOD. It'll be on demand afterwards. And YouTube keeps sending me these messages like, okay, YouTube, I don't care too much. It's telling me right now that I'm streaming at too high of a bit rate. Like, okay, whatever. Okay, so apt install. Oops, wrong. I'm going to do it on here so you can see. Apt install -y iperf3. Hopefully that just works. And then I'll start an iperf server -s on my main computer, and we'll see if we're getting 100 megabits on here. iperf3-c 10.0.100.15, I think is my main. Yeah. All right, so it's getting 100 megabits. This the chip is toasty, so maybe it needs a little heatsink on it or something. It's not burning my finger, but it's definitely hot to the touch. This little H616 on here. So, I'm not going to deep dive into this board. It does look like, the cool thing is this board has HDMI output, which you wouldn't think is an amazing thing, but I plugged in an HDMI cable and got a signal. That's actually an accomplishment for some alternatives to the Pi. Sometimes you get the stuff and you plug it into your screen and you're getting nothing. You're like, oh, I guess it's broken. And then you find out, oh, we just don't have a device tree for that yet, so HDMI doesn't work. Or like Ethernet is stuck at 10 megabits and you're like, what's going on? Oh, we don't have the driver working for that. Like this happens all the time, and it's something you have to be prepared for if you're buying a new board. I have a Rock 5 coming in. Hopefully the Rock 5 will be better in that regard than some other ones, because a lot of people have been testing them. But this one is getting, it's getting 100 megabits, so that's what's advertised. That's good. It's running Linux 5.16, which is a lot better than a lot of other boards, even ones that are newer from bigger manufacturers who make more of these things. So that's cool. But let me turn off the terminal and switch back to here. So that's surprising in a good way. So I'm happy about that. I don't know if Wi-Fi works. Let's see if I do IPA and turn on terminal again. So it does have WLAN. Let's see, CD, C/WPA supplicant. I don't see any WPA config yet, but it looks like that might work. I'm not going to get into it right now because I don't have my IoT Wi-Fi set up that I want to throw this thing on in case I don't want it to blow something up. But yeah, let me check. The next thing I want to do really quick is check with this adapter board, the PI4B adapter board, to see if it runs with Raspberry Pi. So I'm going to shut this thing down. Shut down now. Okay, that shut itself down. That's good. I'll unplug this. Oh wow, the whole board is kind of hot. So yeah, even though this chip is a little underpowered compared to the Pi's, the H616, it still gets pretty hot. So actually, I can leave these plugged in, can't I? Because now don't do this at home. What I'm about to do is a bad idea. Especially don't just leave Pi's like dangling off the edge of your desk. I do that, but you shouldn't do that. Why can't we buy a Raspberry Pi? Go back to the beginning of the video. That's when I cover that part. And I'm going to switch this out for the Raspberry Pi Compute Module 4. This is I put labels on all these because it's hard to remember. There's no way to identify what model you have, so I always, when I buy it, I put the label right on the bottom, which I can't see if you're, okay, I'm not doing that. Hold on. Whoa, okay. Let's get that back to, oh, I never tightened the mount over here, so hold on. Let me get this tightened up so that it doesn't do that again. What does the Yeti say? Oh, I actually have a note about that. Let's get this fixed first. There we go. Okay. Oh, sorry about that. That was interesting. I thought I was getting drunk or something, but I'm only drinking water. I mean, it's either water or vodka. You can see. Oh, and I just spilled some water on my Pine 64. But this says STH for Serve the Home, who just passed 100,000 subscribers. If you don't subscribe to them, check them out. They have great videos on a lot of different things. And I mentioned earlier in the stream, those small form factor PCs. I don't have one sitting over here. I had like a really old one somewhere in my office that I could have showed off, I guess. But those little PCs that are like edge type PCs that you see bolted to the back of monitors at medical offices and things, you can often find those, and they only use 10 to 15 watts. So a little more power than a Pi, but not too much. You can find them for like $100, $125 on eBay a lot of times, because wholesalers will batch them out on eBay, something like that. So another option, but I found out about a lot of those through Serve the Home. So go check them out. It's Serve the Home on YouTube. This is their logo. And this is my favorite little Yeti from them. It keeps things nice and cold. All right. The LTT Uber screwdriver. Yes, I do have the blackout version here. And I've been trialing it. So my intention is to use this. I have the Creator Edition one upstairs. I'm going to be using it for a couple months and then tell people how I like it after that. I still am not converted to ratcheting yet. Maybe I will, maybe I won't, but we'll see. Let's see. So I'm going to take this off. Like I said earlier, don't do this at home. This is how I take off Compute Module 4s. You're supposed to use a spudger, but my spudger's over there. I'm not going to go grab it. So I just kind of pull up on the edge and it pops off. Now, the high-rose connectors on these things are rated for like 100 insertions or 50 insertions. I have at least one Pi over here that it's my main testing Pi. If I'm like, oh, this might blow it up, I'm going to use this one. It's probably gone through like 150 or 200 insertions and removals. So I haven't seen that as a big problem. So we're going to put that aside, plug in the Pi, and see if everything works with this adapter board. Or see if most things work. It also looks like it has a fan header here, which, let me grab this. So it looks like it does have a fan header, which is nice. And we'll see if that, well, I'm not going to test that tonight, but we'll see if this thing boots up with the Pi. How am I doing on time? We're just over an hour, so I'm going to see if this boots up, and if it does, I think we'll be good. So I see the power LED is like a very faint red. Activity is blinking. Oh, you know what? I don't have a PiOS image on here. So let me unplug this for now. Oh, it actually is it's trying to boot. That's interesting. If I go back over here, you can see. Yeah. Oh, it's not seeing a valid OS image, so that's why. Yeah, you can see that's just the Pi bootloader trying to find an image, and it is not. So let me pop power off of here. And I believe I have PiOS on one of these other cards, so let me just, whoa. Let's slap one in. Let's see if we can get it to boot. Ah! All right, let's see. A PC CPU cooler on the Pi, like one of those giant, like Noctua NH12 or something. Let's see. So we got, it looks like it is booting. Let's see what it says here. And it's rebooting now. What SD card reader do I use? I have like 40 of them, so I can't give you a specific answer. The one that I have like 3 of them in all my bags, is a Ugreen one. But the one I'm using right now is built into my Mac Studio, the one that I use for flashing most of the time. Actually, while this is booting, I'll show you. I can get this unmounted. So the Mac Studio is down underneath the desk, and you can't see that because it's so dark, so let me brighten that up. The Mac Studio is down there. That is my desk lab. It has my audio equipment and the Mac Studio, and I used to have my Mac Mini over there, but right now I don't have another Mac there. But anyway, that's the SD card that I'm using right now. Let me put this back up there. The camera body is hot. Hopefully the battery's not going to die soon. But the stream will be done soon, so that's okay. Oh, and it's bright. Sorry about that. Okay, that's better. All right, so the Pi is booted. So let me do IPA. And that is on, let me make this bigger here. It's not getting, oh, I unplugged Ethernet. That's why it's not getting a link. So we'll test this and just make sure that as long as the lines for this Ethernet jack are connected correctly to the pins on the CM4, should be giving us a gigabit. So we'll test that really quick and make sure. If I go apt update, sudo exclamation point, and I'll do, let me make this bigger so you can see something. Soup. You still can't see it, I'm sure, but it's better than nothing. If you want to look really closely and you're on a desktop computer and full screen, you might be able to see this. Sudo apt install -y. What is it? iperf3. Oh, it's already installed. I must have used this for some network testing. IPA. So this is, I don't need the IP address on here. iperf3-c 10.0.100.15. Whoop, nope. Okay. Yeah, so we are getting a gigabit. So this board, I'm surprised in a good way that this board is giving me everything that they've advertised. Now, there might be some features on it that aren't working the same way as on a Raspberry Pi. Let me switch back over to this. I don't expect it to be a Raspberry Pi replacement. BigTreeTech makes this so that people who are buying their boards for 3D printers and can't find a Compute Module 4 can still get something up and running. That's the point, and it seems like it's going to achieve that goal. So that's awesome. And this little RPi, oh, something worked. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Justin. Apparently memberships work. I checked all the boxes, but only memberships are working. So I guess thank you very much for your membership. Sorry I didn't have the donations working. That was the main thing I was trying to have working here. But anyway, yeah, so it surprises me in a good way because they aren't advertising a Raspberry Pi Compute Module 4 replacement. They're advertising a compatible board, this little guy, with an all-winner H616 chip that will run the software that's needed to run the things that they want to run for 3D printing, and that's cool. And they have an OS image that surprised me. I downloaded it, and it actually worked, and things like HDMI and networking worked out of the box. A big surprise, but with a lot of this hardware, when you buy it, especially if you buy it early on when they announce it, you end up with something that just, it's really hard to get working, and you end up not having everything working. And so you're like, oh, so that's why I should have just paid the extra money for a Raspberry Pi. But going back to the title of this video, that's one big reason why Raspberry Pis are so hard to get right now, unless you live in, I think Denmark is the only country that seems to have consistent stock, but only with one vendor and only one at a time or something like that. But that's why. It's because this is an exception, the experience that I had here. And even with that, as I mentioned in the video, there were parts that were weird, like I couldn't find a download link on BigTreeTech's website for the image for this. Like, they're not set up for that. They're set up as a hardware manufacturer, and they just so happen to have some software to support this. And I had to find that through Google, and someone mentioned that it was linked. I couldn't find that link after spending a few minutes. Now, maybe it was somewhere on there, just hidden somewhere. But anyway, and maybe that user manual link was actually the link to that GitHub repository, which would be funny because it's not on their main website. Maybe that link to the GitHub repo that had the link to the image, okay, but that didn't make sense to me because I wanted to download the OS image, not get the user manual. But anyway, so that's the big difference. That's the big thing. And thank you, Tony, and everyone else, Gregory, and everyone else who's donated to the OAA. I was trying to have that working, but I didn't have that working to show the notifications. That would have been really cool. But yeah, so that this is sadly the exception And it's cool, you know, I might do a little more follow-up on this board since it was so easy to get working. I might actually be able to do something productive with it. But if you're going to go for an alternative to the Raspberry Pi, you're going to have some growing pains. And a lot of times, you know, like I said, I still haven't gotten everything working on the SO quartz, and I still am fighting the SPI bootloader thing on the Radsa. That's not to say it's all not my fault, but the fact that I have to do things like figure out how to, you know, flash SPI or do weird things like that, or figure out what Linux kernel options I need to use to get something to boot, that stuff is not something that you have to experience with the Raspberry Pi unless you're doing ridiculous things like trying to get, I have over here a Quadro GPU, trying to get that working with the Raspberry Pi. Those are things that most people don't ever need to do. Probably everybody doesn't ever need to do that. But yeah, someone says in Turkey they have one. Yeah, well, yeah, you need the money, which no one has. Sadly, in some countries, that is a big problem right now. But do I hack my colon? Not right now. But yeah, so let me make sure that I didn't miss anything else out here. I am lay sad. I wrote it again. I am lay sad about the situation with Raspberry Pi shortages. Like I said at the beginning, I don't think that that's going to clear up by the end of this year. I think it's going to be at least 3 to 6 months before we start seeing relief in that regard. I have a note to make sure I follow up with super chats and things. Like I said, I can only see like the past 20 or 30. Oh, you know what? Every time I switch off of the viewer activity tab, it deletes all the ones before. So that's annoying. Well, if I would have known that, I would have had this open the whole time, and then I could thank everybody. But I can see some people. So thank you very much to Kevin, Craig, Tony, Stephen, Anonymous, Justin, Gregory, Stephen, MC88DX, everybody else who's donated, William, and Deviate from the code. Hopefully don't deviate too much from the code, but thank you to everybody who's donated tonight. The UOA has made a big difference in my life. So yeah, I achieved that. But yeah, I will keep following up. I'll keep trying to figure out ways. You know, when I mentioned the RPi locator website, a lot of people think I run that. I don't actually run that website. That's run by somebody else. But right now, that is the best way. If I switch over to there, that is currently the best way to try to find one. And like I said, if you set up notifications, so there's actually tips and tricks for how to get one from one of the vendors when they do become available. There's also a Twitter account that you can follow. There are ways that I'm sure somebody watching the stream has a Pi set up that's running, or a Pico or something that alerts them when there is one with home automation or something like that. So you guys can talk about that. But anyway, yeah, I don't think it's going to ease up too soon. I hope it does at some point. But thank you so much to everybody who's donated. This stream has been a fun stream. It looks like, I don't know, I haven't been checking the analytics. It looks like I've had like 1,200 viewers or something, which I think might be a record for this channel. I haven't streamed in a long time. And I'm terrible at streaming, but whatever. But thank you everybody for watching, and I hope you have a great night. I'm going to go and relax for a little bit after coming home from vacation, and maybe I'll figure out a way to make my anniversary tomorrow be special, more so than I just did a live stream. We just got back from vacation. You know, we'll see. But thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Or I should say until next time, I'm Jeff Geerling.